and led to Paris calling Friday's extraordinary meeting of interior ministers from the 27 member states.
And our dear viewers, to shed light about the sustainable development in the African continent, we are very much pleased and delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Youmn Hamaqy, Professor of Economics. Dr. Youmn, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Doctor, how would you describe Africa's drive in the field of sustainable development?
Actually, Africa is having severe challenges to achieve sustainable development, since the continent is having the highest rate of poverty compared to most countries of the world. So this is the first challenge that should be addressed for the African continent. And unfortunately, despite all the resources that are owned by the continent, still we are talking about the capability to use these resources efficiently. And we mentioned several times, and according to the strategy of the African Union that have been made lately, and the Sustainable Development Goals 2063, we have a lot of work to be done regarding economic empowerment of poor, concentrating on women. The gender perspective can play a significant role for the continent. So I believe that this is the most important challenge, and this challenge cannot be addressed without industrialization of the continent, without, value adding to the resources. Instead of exporting resources as raw material, these resources should be manufactured, offering opportunities of job, and addressing the unemployment rate, very high unemployment rate, and we have the feminization of poverty in the continent can be a model. The continent can be a model for the feminization of poverty. And it comes that programs to upgrade skills for youth and women, and investment in industrial sector, in different industrial sector, and enhancing the climate of investment to attract foreign direct investment. I believe this is quite important. And when we are talking nowadays about the activation of the free trade area for the African continent, I believe this can play a significant role. We can see a very important role for African Bank of Development in the continent, helping and supporting building capabilities and opening opportunities for youth. So I believe this is the only way and the right way to address and to achieve sustainable development.
Yes. Dr. Youmn, actually, what obstacles face Africa's path towards sustainable development from your point of view?
From my point of view, actually, most African continents are suffering from poor education. They are suffering from, the political conflicts can play significant role to affect seriously the capability of the continent to use resources efficiently. Corruption, mismanagement, regarding mismanagement, I believe that we have, as economists, a lot of studies regarding, the foreign aid that the continent has achieved during the last 3 decades. And these studies prove that the continent has received, like Marshall Plan after the Second World War was Europe. And despite that, the impact of this actually flows didn't achieve as expected results to enhance the capability of the continent and to enhance the quality of life. From here it comes that there are severe challenges regarding management, regarding corruption. But, lately there has been quite significant change regarding improving political systems, enhancing democracy, and building capabilities so that we can expect, inshallah, for the coming period that may things change dramatically.
Hope so. Dr. Youmn, how would you list here Africa's sustainable development potentials?
We have just finished with 27. This dimension is quite important for the continent because, you know, when you attract investment and funds internationally, and when the African continent be regarded as, another lung for the whole world, like the Amazon, you know. So we have a very good potentiality for that, and there are several projects that have been studied actually in order to add to generating, green areas, generating oxygen. So this is quite important to be regarded, as well as efforts should be done for adaptation to confront the reflection of climate changes that, are hitting seriously the continent. I believe that this sustainable development, taking into consideration green economy, can help to large extent to enhance the possibility of development and improving quality of life for African people.
Indeed. Dr. Youmn, how does the sustainable development in Africa highlight the need for more intense cooperation?
This is quite important, and I have just mentioned, the free trade area among African countries. We used to have different economic integration types like COMESA and SADC, and our studies as economists prove that there are conflicts, severe conflict when we have different trade areas without coordination. From here it comes the importance of having one free trade area that has already started to work in the African continent. We need more, actions to be taken in order to harmonize our financial and monetary systems in order to agree upon standards about rules of origin, about, the customs and how we can deal to facilitate trade, to facilitate and encourage investment, intra-investment among African countries. I believe all these actions should be taken in order to enhance investment and trade, and this can play a significant role to enhance the situation in the country.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Youmn, how would the sustainable development impact Africa's economic and social spheres as well?
This is a very important question because nowadays we have interaction with the social and economic side, and we cannot achieve. And actually, the meaning of sustainable development is including three dimensions, as we all know: environmental and social and economic. And when we have all these projects, we need to see the quality of life for African people, and the worst. It can be considered as the worst internationally, as famine, suffering from famine, and all these phenomena are
indeed
of the continent. So we have to address all these challenges so that we can put Africa on the right side.
Doctor, how is the sustainable development attracting the foreign investments in Africa?
When you start industrialization, when you start building human capital, when you enhance infrastructure in the continent, and we have a plan for that, when you do all this, what we can call from economic point of view as prerequisites for economic growth and development, I believe this attracts foreign investment because the continent is full of resources that are actually needing investment, and these investments are going to be quite profitable according to visibility studies that we have done as economists. So I believe that these are the prerequisites we indeed need on it in order to activate the economic growth in the country.
Indeed. Dr. Youmn Hamaqy, Professor of Economics, thank you so much for being our guest and for your precious input. Always a pleasure. And indeed, the Greek migrant boat would be our last report, where the Greek authorities said that dilapidated fishing boat crammed with migrants that was towed to port after losing steering in rough seas south of Crete was carrying a total of 483 people who had sailed from Libya. More details with Samah al-Sharif.
The Greek Coast Guard said a fishing boat that was crammed with migrants was towed to port after losing steering in rough seas south of Crete. The boat was carrying a total of 483 people who had sailed from Libya. The Coast Guard said those